The following contains real-life stories of sex trafficking and its violent nature. It is unsuitable for children. Listener discretion is advised.
Well, then this guy in New Jersey wanted more. He didn't want just certain. He wanted rape. He wanted more. So then they paid the guy across the street in that country to go across the street. He pays off the mother and grandmother to allow him to rape these children and to video it.
Okay, so we're with our fifth guest of the day, Mark, on our Moral Tea podcast. Mark, would you tell us a little bit about what you do,
Sure.
your organization?
Sure. So I'm so blessed to be in a part of my life where I'm able to take former skill sets along with a great team of people, both domestically and internationally, and that we, through our foundation and through support of unique ways, we're able to provide the Counter Human Trafficking Task Force internationally. And so we work counter trafficking, recovery, extraction in 19 countries. These are employed people. We have an office in these places, and we're working, cases all the time. In the States, the fight of human trafficking is actually a little different, and we can get in that maybe in this show. But in the States, we also run a mobile forensic lab. So, and then I also sit on the board for some Intercept Task Force and another organization that focuses domestically on the fight.
But what I noticed about Mark is when we got talking about it, what he does, it's not just a list of offices and operations. I see that you take this extremely personally.
Yes.
It's a deep passion, and it sounds almost like a second career, the wildest second career ever. But
it came out of, I was working, God had kind of brought me to a point in my life that said, to whom much is given, much is required. And I remember when my youngest, I have 5 daughters, and when my youngest was baptized, and I baptized her, and literally the Lord spoke to me and said, to whom much is given, much is required. Your children are in my hands, right, and safe. And so I began to pray, like, Lord, what do you want me to do with that? Like, do I need to return to work in, intelligence world or contracting or government? What do I need to do? And really, God put in my heart to go back into, at that time, it was with ISIS and Daesh in the, mid 2015, 16, 17, and to just do what I could do as a believer, right? And so I quickly found myself on a unit there working for the Kurdish government to do hostage recovery. And in that process, I saw, every terrorist cell, I knew that, but I didn't realize it. Every terrorist cell has a child almost, organ harvesting, forced marriages, forced brides, forced soldiers, and I see this, misuse of children. From there, I began to work in Asia Pacific, and just, the criminality of human trafficking, I got front and center in front of my face. I knew it was in war zones. ISIS would behead children, before we came, and I've held the bodies of kids with no heads. I've seen extreme things, and when I realized that, this whole world is fighting this, it's a problem in the world. Somebody has to fight it. And so I tried to help a couple of organizations, but really, truly, God had blessed me with a group of people I knew in my network that we could really move the needle. Meaning we can go into a country, build a sustainable program at the government level to fight this and to arrest people. We got too many groups that are kind of have this American complex, superhero complex, or they're kind of like cowboys, and they like the story, they're going in whatever. Look, I've raided every place in the world. I can't tell you how many doors I've kicked in. It doesn't matter. Like, all that doesn't matter. It is about the kid and a criminal going to jail and helping that country fight that, because they're so desperate to fight it. They don't have the budget and the funding that our nation has, So how do we do that and just rescue the kids? You've seen the stats. I hate to even throw them out there. 41 million people in human trafficking. That's a lot of people, a lot of children. And so we've been fighting that now for years, and doing that. And I have a great group of people, a great team.
How do you, well, maybe this is a preemptive question, but how do you keep going every day? Because you gave me a story, and I was sharing a story that was someone I love, but you gave me a story, and how do you do that day in and day out? And
I can't escape it. I wish there were certain verses in Scripture that weren't there, right? To help the fatherless and to help the oppressed, and all those passages of Scripture, right? I mean, if I could, my life would be so much easier, Renee, if we just cut those Bible verses out and I went and lived the American dream, and I stayed in my nice, safe place in America, enjoyed my 5 kids, and there's no danger in America. I'm never being shot at, and there's no bomb threat in my life here. I feel like there's no, I could do it. And that is actually the danger in America, is that the most intoxicating drug in America is comfort.
Yes, it is. Easy comfort. Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
It's like everybody around me is just, I can't associate to them hardly. And that's nothing to discredit, but God has put that call on me and my team, and it is a burden. It is a burden we can't get away from, and that's just reality. And I will die
but to live as
in
Christ,
some
to
place
die
trying
as
to
gain.
rescue somebody. So
How are you guys open to human trafficking, and especially in other countries?
Right. So from the fight against terrorism and then working around the world, I began to realize, hey, this is a criminality that's happening everywhere, and there's really nobody outside of the incredible law enforcement we have in the U.S. who does a great job. But then also, Homeland does a great job, Interpol, Europol. There are some fantastic agencies fighting human trafficking, but they're overwhelmed too. I mean, they can only handle so much, and so we're trying to help all that we can in this fight. And we work in Asia Pacific, we work in the Middle East, we work in Africa, we work in West Africa particularly. In 2 weeks I'll be in Africa. We've got 8 countries coming together for an intelligence brief on child sacrificing. And people don't know that. I mean, 2 years ago, I got called up by a country's Minister of Defense. He said, hey, I need your whole team here. I said, I already got my whole team's on the ground. He goes, no, I need the American team to join the team you have here. It's child sacrificing months. And I was like, what do you mean, like 10 kids? And he's like, no, like thousands. You're kidding me. So, we get on the ground, and, I have my first experience of bags of children's bodies cut and dismembered in parts and for sale. For voodoo and fetish rituals. So
why?
Voodoo, fetish, like rituals for power. It's very prominent situation in Africa, especially in West Africa. And so, we're combating that at every level. Our organization, along with some other partners, we're trying to address that. And we can't really address that kinetically. Like, we can't rescue and arrest enough people on that. That's a change of the mind. So, that's the gospel. That's making the African mind see that the God of the Bible is more powerful than the God they are doing these things to, sacrificing to, and that he doesn't like that. It's tribal. So we got to change that.
It's basically, we're still wrestling against Moloch.
Right.
What would you
100%.
say is the draw, though, to children and human trafficking? Like, why is it children who are targeted specifically?
Well, they're in the world outside of America, children are very unaccounted for, and because of the ideologies in foreign land, they're also valued less. Girls are valued less around the world, for instance, and so they are susceptible to being used and manipulated, and that's often driven by poverty. There's no economic freedom in parts of the world, and so they're susceptible to being lied to or taking on, opportunities that aren't real, or the parents sell the child. I mean, listen, I've worked thousands of cases, okay? And I can give you illustration, story after story. For instance, a guy who gets a BMW, drives into a tribal area in Africa and convinces parents he's got a ministry and a school and that he's going to help raise them from age 6 all the way to 18, and then they're going to go to America, and those parents don't know any better and go, oh, hallelujah, yes, take our child because we can't even feed him today, and the child goes, and now he's got inventory. and he's selling those kids nearby or in the next country. And that happens all around the world. There's girls in Colombia. We just did a raid a few months ago, 83 girls we rescued. In Dominican Republic, every single girl was from Colombia or from South America. How? Well, they were college students. And so the smugglers and the targeters knew, go after a college girl. Some of these girls were studying to be police officers, social workers, engineers, but because they're in school in Colombia, they've got debt. And so a promoter comes and says, hey, how would you like a job in the Dominican Republic in the entertainment industry? You can, and they don't even say they're going to strip or do anything like that. Just come to the entertainment industry. We're going to give you a job. You're going to make $3,000 in a week because some American, if you'll just be his, escort, he's going to give you money. And the girl thinks, oh, I'm going to be able to pay my college bill. I'm going to great. And so they say, okay, but when you go to the airport, don't tell them that. Just tell them you're going to go see family. They get on the airport. They fly. As soon as they land in, that country, somebody takes their passport, takes their document, locks them up in a room, and says, your age, you're going to sleep with 15 guys a night, and if you don't, we're going to kill you. Yeah, and then you're stuck there for months in your life, So it is, I hear people all around say human trafficking is not like the movie Taken. It is too. In my life, all around the world, it's like that. Now, in America, no, it's different. We can talk about that. But there is straight up kidnapping, hostage, held against their will, trafficking situations happening every moment of the day. And these poor girls have no way out. They are completely stuck in a kidnap situation. They can't even leave the compound, the brothel, other things. And we go undercover. We work with those countries. They don't want it either, and so we work with the prosecution, and we say, let's build this case, do the undercover work, build the raiding unit, package it up, hand it to the prosecutor, get the warrants, go arrest the people, and put them in jail, so.
What is it like, actually, from what you've seen? Like, what does an operation look like? Are you allowed to disclose that?
Yeah, sure. It's different in different parts of the world. In Africa, it's different than it is in the Caribbean. You know what I mean? In the Caribbean and places like that, it looks very much like it would look in the U.S. There's an undercover operation. There's a digital exploitation of who the smugglers and traffickers are. It's building the network out. Looking at social media, intercepting phone, all those kind of things. Right? Going undercover, making a purchase or acting like or finding out what it would cost, all of that, right? Identifying the victims, figuring out where they're from, and then getting the warrant and then making the arrest and then, raiding the facility. If there's guns involved there, depending on the cartel size, mafia, whatever's running it, depends on how that looks, right? And so then making the arrest, and then
they lock them up for good.
Yeah, we go for heavy prosecution. Yeah, we don't. If a country doesn't want to prosecute, we don't stay. Like we say, listen, unfortunately, you have to arrest people. Bad people have to go to jail. And the truth is, we can't rescue our way out of the problem, and we really can't arrest our way out of the problem either. There has to be the gospel has to be given in the world and things like that. But we put a lot of people in jail.
But it is a rescue first and foremost, and then you can.
Yeah, well, the rescue is that's just the first moment of rescue. And then there's incredible aftercare people that we're depending on, or the girl even has to take advantage of the second opportunity that she's being given, to restart her life if she can. We just celebrated a great success in South America. We just had a victim that we rescued in another country. Got her all the way through that. She testified, and now we got her safely back to her home country, and we just bought her salon.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we don't always get to participate in the full aftercare of it because we just can't. We're rescuing too many people, but we were able to see that all the way through. We went down to a ribbon cutting. Some of our employees did, and leadership, and so that was really cool. That girl was super pumped.
How would you describe trafficking in America? Because you said there's a difference in between the two cultures. And it sounds like with each culture, there are different underlying motives for why children are trafficked. How do you differentiate the
Overseas,
United States
poverty
from other
is a
countries?
big driver. And, of course, a girl's a reusable commodity. A drug is used one time.
Right. Just in the United States.
Everywhere in the world.
Right.
Everywhere in the world, they're reusable,
Right.
So... In the U.S., we have incredible law enforcement at the FBI and Homeland Security, and then our ICAC and C3 people and sheriff department, all of them. They should all be praised, okay? They do an amazing job. Now, the hard part, though, the part of the problem in America where they need help is internet crimes against children, or CSAM. It used to be called child pornography, but that terminology we moved away from because of the connotations of it, that somehow the child is participating in that. No, this is rape by proxy. This is, an extreme, sexual abuse. So we call it child sexual abuse material. CSAM, you'll hear that term a lot, okay? And you'll hear internet crimes against children, or you'll hear, online sexual exploitation, things like that, right? So in the U.S., the driving factor is not poverty; it's perversion. It's the straight up corrupt mind of men and even women who have no problem looking at content online, right? And they do that not just on the dark web. They do that on straight up on their desktops. They do that on websites. They do that on WhatsApp and those kind of channels. I mean, they're consuming it. Now, the entire world is consuming child sexual abuse material. We're not leading it. The U.S. has been a leader in it, but as far as, using that, but the whole world's got a problem with it. And particularly in the U.S., I remember a case one time that we worked with an incredible team at Homeland, and they intercepted somebody who was buying images of a 18-month-old and a 5-year-old. And this guy was in New Jersey. He was buying images from a guy in Spain who was paying someone in a Caribbean country to go across the street, pay the mom and grandmother for pictures, right? Well, then this guy in New Jersey wanted more. He didn't want just certain, he wanted rape. He wanted more. So then they paid the guy across the street in that country to go across the street. He pays off the mother and grandmother to allow him to rape these children and to video it. And then to provide that and sell that all the way back to, the guy in New Jersey. So the guy in New Jersey was paying like $6,000 to the guy in Spain. The guy in Spain was paying like $2,000 to the guy in the country. The guy in the country was paying, $200 to the mom, right? And so that whole case, Homeland did an amazing job using, facial recognition, teams on the ground. We helped with the undercover. We helped on the raid, and then went in and got that, right, and got those children. And everybody in that food chain was given 25 years. Actually, the mom the uncle, the grandmother all got 25 years. The guy in the New Jersey went away for life. So. And he's driven by just, where did he start in life? I don't know. What pornography was he participating in prior to he got to that level? Who knows? But people get there, and they get there from what they consume online and on their phones and all those things. And that is a definite driving factor. And also know this, that guy was requesting those images, and then he also wired enough money to buy a house in that country, and he was planning his vacation to that house and was going to have those 2 children delivered to him so that he could rape those kids. This happens all the time, y'all. This is on the dark web, we know it as the International Sex Tourism Guide. It gets taken down, it gets brought back up in some way always. It's a constant fight for those wonderful officers and agents who are constantly working the dark web, God bless them, who are trying to take that kind of stuff down. But, this kind of stuff happens all the time. So that's how that was going. That's that course of action this guy was going to take, and it was going to end with him with those kids in hand. So what we know is that people who look at child sexual abuse material, about 80% of them are hands-on also. They're abusing somebody,
Wow. So, and
guys, it's not a few thousand. Mm-hmm. It's tens of millions.
I know.
On a monthly basis.
In
the U.S.
Yes.
In our state alone, your state.
Yeah. North Carolina is horrible because we have 85, 95.
We have on the child sexual abuse material, if I read the report right, I think it's 18,000 cases this year, right? So that goes to the State Bureau of Investigation of your state, right? And they verify it, and NCMEC and everybody's doing their job, and then it gets thrown down to sheriffs who are trying their best, but they don't have an ICAC investigator. A lot of, I think 40% of our sheriffs in our state don't have that. So guess where that case goes?
Down. All the special units.
The case goes nowhere.
Yeah.
Because they're too busy with drugs and homicide, so the case doesn't go anywhere. So we are trying to help that, and it's really, we've entered into a part of this time period in this fight that we're seeing a beautiful thing. We're seeing agency and law enforcement create great partnerships with nonprofits.
And I know this is cultural contrast again, but what do you think feeds into the fetish for children in the USA? Because I know I was asking you in other countries, and some of it was, child sacrifice.
I'm definitely,
what feeds into it, though?
Right. It's hard. I'm not an expert at all. I'm, on this. In the U.S., as far as probably take a good stab at it, that they themselves are introduced to, sex at a young age. You probably have had people on your show or studies from this, that they're getting used to it at a young age. It perverts and manipulates who they're going to be in the future, It
has to rewire.
Right. Or they've been abused, or they face sexual abuse that's never dealt with, or that's not brought forth or not dealt with, and then those things begin to just manipulate the mind in a bad way, and that person grows up in that environment and eventually is consuming pornography, but is also they get introduced to all kinds of people have all kinds of crazy fetishes, right? And I sat in a seminar one time with an agency, and there was a doctor who was talking about people and how they would venture into fetishes, or did they have a line of morality that they would draw, and it's rare to find that somebody will draw a line of morality. Eventually, people who consume pornography keep going more hard. Hardcore, more hardcore, more hardcore, more hardcore, until they venture off. Because if you look at like the fight against Pornhub, Exodus Cry has led, which is incredible, and to see the search tags and the terms that people are looking at on Pornhub, under 18, under 18, under 18 is the largest one, that just tells you, and so they're looking for that material, and it gets introduced to them, and then they're starting to look at it, and then they get hands-on if they're not already hands-on. And so where that results is that then you've got creators. Then you've got somebody who goes hands-on, and they're creating content and material, and then they're sharing it. It becomes, for some reason, that's what they start to do, and they start sharing those images to other people who want to see those images, and they become a creator of that content.
They become a dealer.
Yeah, and then they're doing all this, and they're selling. Sometimes it's just about trading it. Sometimes it is about selling it, and
a long time ago I worked in a school, and the counselor came to me, and I was just a brought-in person with a nonprofit. She says, we're missing our two Vietnamese sisters. And I looked at her and I went, oh no, I worry because I'm a concerned individual and I'm a mom. And I said, and I'm waiting for her to say we found them or whatever. She goes, I need you to find them. I'm going, this was, the internet was very, very new and real. And she goes, this is where you call the sheriff. And I said, I called the sheriff. They had no idea what to do. I said, I can't leave this alone. So eventually, this average person you're looking at, I ended up getting a hold of the FBI and calling them. The FBI goes there and they actually find them with the dad leaving the state for nefarious reasons, and they bring them back. So, it's weird how we get involved, but what should we look for as average citizens?
Yeah, so there's definitely, more going on in the U.S. than just what's happening on the internet. And I'm not an expert. I can talk about CSAM because I've worked some cases. I know, but there are people who know great deal more than I do. But I do know a lot personally now. When you start talking about labor trafficking, organ trafficking, and sex trafficking of a human, I know all about it. Okay, I've seen it in 30 some countries, and seen cases everywhere and working them everywhere. Where it starts in the U.S., as it often starts even overseas, is the phone, the cell phone. People and parents have got to really control that cell phone of their teenage daughters. It's especially if you're a foster parent, because the stats show that they're more likely to be trafficked. You really got to control that cell phone and who they're talking to, because everybody's getting the coercion is a big part of this, and we all know cases where a girl is talking to some guy who's, she's 15, he's 23, she runs off with him, he's sleeping with her, and then he says, hey, I need you to, he's got a drug addiction, or gets her drug addicted, or says, I need you to sleep with these guys, because we need money for our apartment or our hotel room, you know what I mean? And now this girl's being pimped out by him, you know what I mean? And they're being sold, and that happens a lot. So those type of cases start with accountability from a parent, and so that's accountability is so important. Don't let your kid act like they can't look at their phone. What in the world?
But what about in the runaway situation?
Yeah, even in the runaway situations, girls will run away, or somebody runs away, and typically they fall into the hands of people who are involved in criminality, and guys are going to sell girls. They just do, all around the world. Guys are, I hate to say this, but to the manhood of the world, we cause all the problems. Every war I've ever been in, everything I'm ever looking at, men cause so many grievous problems for women. That's the reality. And the heart of men has got to change.
Can you go a little more into that?
Yeah,
and look.
And here's what's scary for us. Let's be real. Like the stats put out by Thorn and other organizations showing what boys are looking at on their phones. I mean, I don't know what the stats are. I got 5 daughters. I'm always wondering, what boy are they going to marry that's not looked at porn on his phone, and is not addicted to it, or has a wrong viewpoint of her as a woman or as a girl, female, in respect of her, right? And how it all works.
Do you think social media and Instagram feed into that?
Oh, 100%, yeah. And let's be really real. If we really continue talking about the fight against CSAM, social media is just, they're not helping us at all. They get we try, all the people who are in the world, incredible law enforcement agents and homeland people who are trying to get social media to do better. I mean, if they're listening right now, they're banging their heads against the wall too. They know, man, Snapchat and these groups could do a whole lot better than they're doing, So, I mean, they do feed us, cases and stuff, but a lot could be controlled better.
So, because you hit on something we were talking about, is we were talking about how she checks out what people are consuming on whatever media site, because it's across the board. Like if you're liking this, why you're not dating material or recording material, whatever the case. So have you implemented steps for your daughters? Are you taking the boyfriend's phone or the
So are we asking for dating?
Yeah, we're asking for really
I'm
curious.
I'm a dangerous person because obviously I can exploit anybody's social media.
Yeah. But how do you...
Every guy runs who's listening to this.
Yeah, my kids are always like, Dad, I had one of my daughters say, Dad. The next day she goes, Dad, I talked to a boy that she was going to go out with. And she's like, Dad, he didn't go out with me. He left here shaking in the car.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, no, really? I don't even remember being that harsh. I don't even remember saying anything. She's like, well, you scared him to death. And I was like, oh, I didn't mean to. But here's the thing I get excited about is when my daughters go out with somebody. And of course, I say, what's his name? And then I run real quick his social media, his platforms, and look. And I just love it when I run it and that boy doesn't have social media. I love it. Or he's got Instagram and he's got 3 baseball pictures.
Yes.
Okay, now we're talking. That's
Yes,
good.
that's what-
Yes,
good.
okay, absolutely.
You can go out with that kid.
This
Right,
is-
yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
It's insane to me because something we've talked about and that I see that I feel like half the population does not, is that even people in our own friends circles, the images in which are posted and in which other men consume, and it goes both ways, but I'm speaking from, again, a woman's perspective. I consider it pornography. Perhaps it's not hardcore, but I'm like, it's not just Playboy. You don't just have to stash a magazine anymore. And it truly does make me wonder, with any man who's on social, I'm like, how does he control that? Or on YouTube? Because it's everywhere. I mean, do you consider...
I wish I could. We limit our children, heavily on social media, and when they get introduced to it, But man, I wish the whole world would get off of it.
Wow, I do too. I just deactivated my personal Instagram for
I'm just constantly wishing like.
But then you're told by other things that you have to have it. You
exactly
have to have a platform.
For the
Well, I know
algorithm.
now. I can't. I have a heart attack when some parent hands a 9-year-old girl a cell phone, and she's creating her own Snapchat, and I'm thinking, oh man, there are people who sit around all day and their full-time job is to groom little girls and to find pictures and to see who's susceptible to conversation and taking images for them so they can sell them or, convince her to come somewhere or do something,
Yeah, and it comes off so deceptive. Like, oh, I really, just see something in you that's special. It's just...
Yeah.
And filters, also, every parent should be grabbing that cell phone, and that's why I like iPhones, is to put all the restrictions on it, to do everything you can if you're going to give them a cell phone, to control that content, and don't apologize for it, do it.
Do you think there's a comfortable ignorance among parents with phones, or do you think it truly is just they're unknowing of these things that their kids could be looking at, or their children even exploited?
I mean, I think it's a comfortable ignorance, but then at the same time, I do feel for parents, because now to parent a child in 2023, you got to be tech savvy. Like, part of your parenting job and skills has to be you understand how a phone works and how and not that we have to be detectives on our kids all the time in a cruel way. We just want to protect them. We want to be a protector, not a detective. So to protect them, though, we got to be able to understand how phones work and
and
have
changes
conversations.
Every day. That is
It does.
deal.
Yeah, it really does.
I can't imagine the IT that.
Yeah. So I mean, trust me, I got $5. I know, and it concerns me, and it's a constant, evaluation and conversations with them and everything, because we also have happening in the States, we also have coercion from girls. I mean, we even have, so one of the problems is, like, girls, like you said, like, they're young, they see all these pictures, and they see these social media influencers who are taking pictures in bikinis and half dress and everything else, and so then she thinks at age 14, this is what I have to do.
Yes.
Or then she gets her first boyfriend and she thinks, I have to send him these pictures like this. And so now this boy's not even asked for these pictures, but yet he's getting them, right? And we've had cases where the boy is like, no, I didn't want these pictures. I didn't ask for this, and he's getting these because the girl thinks this is what she has to do to keep him, and that's true.
He's the one who faces the consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also
Wow.
creates such a, I don't know what it's going to do to our kids in the future, even 20 years from now, when a guy likes a girl, but how can he compete with the 200 likes she gets every time she takes a
That
picture?
is my
And he says, "Hey, you're beautiful," and she
question.
says, "Who cares?" She
Right.
looks at him and goes, "I don't care. I just got 200 likes from
Right.
200 other people."
What-
I am a firm believer that what your search engine and your private life, like, say a lot about you, who you follow, what you're hearting, what you're zooming in and out of. And even girls, what we're posting, like, what are we wanting? If you have a husband or, a wife on the upset, what are you actually wanting? And who's looking at this? So I'm curious, if social media were removed from the world, if it were non-existent, do you think that would change anything on even child sex trafficking?
100%, yeah.
Wow.
That would really curb a diet, and it would really take out one of the ways they, not the way they execute this criminality. You know what I mean?
I come through the day where we used to. I mean, the parents would, or, not my dad, but it would come to the neighborhood in the mailbox. So, I mean, it would have to be that embarrassing moment of rushing into the brown paper wrapping.
And now it's not that, now
it's
cell
your
phones,
door.
and it's the most extreme, horrible things. I mean, we've got intelligence, and there are agents who I know are working on this, of live streaming rapes coming out of Thailand, being sold to Americans on the West Coast. I mean, all kinds of stuff. You can get on the dark web, and this is not conspiracy stuff. This is not kids in cabinets. That's all baloney. This is real. There are cases I know of live streaming from Thailand and Philippines being sold for American viewers, European viewers, of girls being raped or being dismembered, all types of things, okay? And that is just straight up satanic.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really
is.
makes me mad at American men who, and not all, I mean, there are good men, there are godly men in this country, but it makes me mad that we are fueling the fire. And didn't you say we were the biggest consumers of fueling this fire?
Yeah,
well,
we really are.
Yeah.
We consume, our nation consumes so much child pornography on a minute basis. And that's that's kind of what we know about. We don't know about all the, I don't want to get too far because I don't want to give away tips to anybody doing this, but it's hard for us to intercept certain platforms and certain, apps and things like that. So, that's,
they're always one step ahead.
Yeah,
yes,
and that's the fight in America is we need technology. Like we need, when you look at Homeland and what they're given, for, terrorism and drugs, it's crazy money. It's in the billions and billions and billions of dollars. And then you look at what they're given to fight child sexual abuse material, and it's like, I don't know, 500 million maybe. It's hardly nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. We need software that intercepts, all that stuff, and the apps, the phone trading, all that.
But the deal in the
and we need training. And then we need sheriffs who have the budgets to put an ICAC, or a couple of sheriffs who work together to say, hey, we're going to have a lab here to, chase down these people.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a police officer, and they said all their special units have just been wiped away. I mean, they're just, and they're one person per car. They're doing it. They're doing what they can. But
the flip and hard side of this is that we have good privacy laws in America. So I understand. Like, who wants to give up certain privacies? To the U.S. government, right? Yeah. So it's a fine line, but
in the
we can
end,
do better.
You gotta give us some hope because they are dark days. It's ancient Rome magnified.
What
all
would
over
wake
the
people
world.
up to the horrors of it too? Because obviously you see extremes firsthand, but it almost, to those of us who I think are not on the front lines, we view it as something truly that is only Hollywood, and we don't see the disaster that it's actually happening.
Yeah, social media has sensationalized trafficking so much that people aren't actually in tune with what's going on. So, you've got the Pizzagate, and you've got, kids and cabinets being sold for, $10,000 in California. And I'm like, look, people, you can go to San Domingo and buy every girl you want for $20. Nobody's paying $10,000 for kids and cabinets. Like, that's all baloney, but since social media clickbaits and sensationalizes it or passes around a story of like, oh man, Walmart, watch out for this because in a minivan, somebody tried to grab my kid. Now, look, kidnapping happens in America, but traffickers are not rolling around America stealing kids, okay? Because when a kid is kidnapped in America, no less than 1,000 agents know about it, right, immediately. You know what I mean? Like, from the sheriff to FBI, everybody is on that. And we have
Amber Alerts,
yeah. And I mean, and guess what? If you were a trafficker and you just stole a kid that now everybody's looking for, who are you going to sell it to? Because if I took it to a customer, they go, I don't want that kid. Everybody's looking for this kid. Get away from me. They want the kid nobody knows about. They want the one that's unaccountable, that ran away from home, that gets coerced into a relationship and then is getting sold out of the back of a hotel that nobody even knows exists. So all these sensationalized stories of, my kid almost got human trafficked in Walmart parking lot. Come on. No, maybe you almost got kidnapped, or maybe you almost something else, but no, they're not trafficking your kid that way, Now there are a few cases. There are cases that happens. I know there are some cases in the U.S. where that happens. Somebody's taken violently or taken in open and then sold elsewhere. But for the most part, those sensationalized stories have misdirected our attention to what the real fight is. And the real fight is, what's your 14-year-old doing on her phone when she's going in the bathroom, and who is she talking to, and where was she at on Friday night and Saturday? What I mean, like what's happening in her life, or what is this man in your church looking at on his phone, and where's he going on vacation?
Yes.
Why is he going on vacation by himself? Why is he going on vacation by himself to a country nearby? Like, what's up with that? I mean, I get tainted because I'll get on a plane anymore going to certain countries, and I look around the plane, and if I can't tell the four golfers or the honeymooners, everybody else on that plane's a criminal in my mind. What I mean? So I'm just knowing they're all going to go pay for sex, and will they care about the age of the girl? Probably not. So and that's just me, but
no, that's
So we
as well.
We are doing all we can. We've been depressing here. Let me be some positive. So positive is that our organization, every single day, we rescue somebody or arrest somebody. We have incredible task force working in different parts of the world. We have tons of cases, and we have incredible heroes on the ground who are knocking it out. I mean, they're rescuing kids every day. So I used to have to do when we were a small team, but today we're so blessed. And I'm now able to manage more of those things. And I personally do some other stuff like in Eastern Europe and things. But I've got great people, great director of operations, great task force members on the ground, and they are working so hard. We're changing lives a lot, and we're moving the needle in certain countries.
Oh, thank you so much.
Are you willing to say the name of your organization, or is that?
Sure. So the foundation that supports our task force is Lantern Foundation. Or lanternrescue.org. Lanternrescue.org.
And that's someplace people can donate.
Yeah, people can donate.
People get involved.
Yep, they could donate there, and they could definitely get on our prayer list. Get on our monthly report where we send out and we say, hey, here's how many kids were rescued. Here's a update on certain cases. Here's how many people we arrested. All that information is given out monthly. So lanternrescue.org.
Thank you so much for speaking
Thank you.
to us. We've been looking forward to seeing you since we...
Let's do it again anytime. Let's do it again.
Yes, we will definitely. You
okay,
get
so we do have
one.
one last question that we have asked every single guest in our convention living room, and there's no right or wrong answer to this, completely subjective. If you could ask one question to the world or to a platform, what would it be?
Oh, do you know Jesus? Listen, I've worked in wars. I've worked in civil wars. I've worked in fighting different criminal things. And at the end of the day, it's about, do you know Jesus? The solution to all our problems in this world is as many people as I'd like to shoot and, and as many people as I'd like to arrest. That's still not going to solve the problem. Right. Is do you know Jesus?
Right. It's the heart posture in the end. Right.
We just thank you for speaking out. We thank you for what you do. We thank you for
Thank you for what you do. Awesome to meet you. Awesome to meet you.